You never knew the truth. The ink trembled on the yellowed paper, the words written with an almost desperate haste, as if time might erase everything before they were read. The sound of boots pounding on death row mingled with the suffocating silence of the cell. Each step was a final sentence, fate approaching with the coldness of steel that would soon descend. Have you ever wondered what goes through the mind of a man who knows his final hour is approaching? What carries in his thoughts? Fear? Regret? Or a silent revenge, hidden in words that would never be spoken aloud? This sheet, this letter, it's not just paper and ink. It's a piece of a soul, a scream trapped between life and death. Minutes before their execution, murderers sit alone, staring into the void at the only thing left, to write. What do they choose to reveal? What do they hide between the lines? You'll discover that these letters are not simple confessions. They are tortuous maps to buried secrets, to ancient pains and truths that justice has never dared to confront. Think about the last time someone told you a truth that changed everything. A whispered secret, a look filled with intentions that couldn't be ignored. Now imagine it coming from a condemned man, staring death in the eye, knowing that his words will be his final legacy, his last chance to manipulate, accuse, or perhaps redeem himself. What would you do if you had only that one sheet of paper to leave your mark on? I ask because what you're about to discover now may stir something inside you that no one else has ever touched. These aren't just 6 letters. They're 6 fragments of distorted realities, emotional breakdowns, moments of pain, and above all, masks falling. One reveals a confession that should have changed a verdict. Another challenges the idea of guilt, casting a shadow over the system that condemned a perhaps innocent man. A third threatens with a warning that seemed insane until events began to repeat themselves. Each text is a layer, a piece of a puzzle that challenges what we believe to be true about justice and guilt. Have you ever been there? Have you ever felt the weight of an unshakable doubt? Those final words, imbued with emotion and mystery, cast a cold light on the sleepless nights of those left behind, families, investigators, and even the state itself. What you'll see here isn't just history, it's a deep dive into criminal psychology, into the darkest side of the human mind, where fear and guilt intertwine, and the silence before execution speaks louder than any scream. But don't expect easy answers. These letters are like labyrinths, where each sentence carries an explosive charge, each word a veiled threat. The line between victim and perpetrator becomes tenuous, almost imperceptible. Justice, which should be absolute, reveals its cracks, its flaws, its shadows. And you who follow this journey will be invited to question what guilt really means, and who has the final say. What do these letters hide? What is the secret they swore to carry until their last breath? The mystery is revealed, and the truth, like an echo on death row, is about to be revealed. But this, of course, is only the beginning. Prepare to enter a spiral of revelations that will challenge everything you think you know about damnation and redemption. Now let's go through this steel door. What comes next will trap you. Letters written in haste, in the shadows of a cell where time seems to slow, as if each passing second were one less breath, a final sigh about to be snuffed out. These are words that should never see the light of day, written by men who carried a brutal transformation within themselves, a shift in mentality shaped by isolation, fear, and decisions that brought them to the threshold between life and death. These letters are not simple records. They are pieces of a puzzle that surpasses justice itself, a hidden truth that defies reason and that, even after their final breath, continues to reverberate. They come from a place where the impact of pain mingles with the urgency to reveal something before silence takes over forever. Each of them carries the weight of the behind-the-scenes workings of a system that often fails to understand the nuances of human nature. Some killers seize the last opportunity to confess details that could change everything. A twist in the facts, a name never mentioned, an unknown facet of a story that seemed already resolved. Others use these final lines to accuse, to manipulate, to leave a cryptic message, a veiled clue that will continue to haunt investigators, family members, and the public itself. But what happens inside the mind of someone who knows there's no more time to turn back? How does consciousness cope with this radical transformation? The decisions made in these final moments, laden with emotions, regrets, and hidden secrets, are reflected in words that sometimes sound like a cry for help and, at other times, like a final dance with guilt. What we discover here is not just a confession. It's a deep dive into the complexity of the criminal mind, a labyrinth of feelings intertwined with the brutality of the acts committed. Have you ever found yourself trying to understand a decision you'd never make? What drives a human being to cross that line? What you'll discover now may surprise you and shake your own beliefs about guilt, regret, and justice. These letters reveal much more than crimes. They expose the human side distorted by pain and despair, the internal struggle between accepting one's own truth and trying to hide what cannot be erased. Some of these letters are emotionally charged statements, others are true puzzles that challenge even the most experienced criminal psychologists. Between the words lie layers of personal stories, fragmented memories, a past that intertwines with the present in an almost theatrical way. Each line can be a fragment of a reality that few have had the courage to face. Revelations emerge from silence, but they don't always reveal what we expect. Sometimes they deepen the mystery. Behind what seems like a simple farewell, there are internal conflicts, unhealed pain, and even veiled accusations that accuse flawed systems, authorities who prefer to turn a blind eye, and cases that have never been fully solved. These final accounts also show us how isolation and fear create a kind of spiral, a spiral that traps the condemned in their own narrative, where past, present, and future blur into a tangle of memories and delusions. It's a mental transformation that few can comprehend, but which is clear in the blurred letters and careful word choice. A final attempt to control a story that until then seemed to be written only by others. While some use this opportunity to ask for forgiveness or try to redeem their mistakes, others seize it to cast doubt on their own guilt, on the innocence of others, on the details that were overlooked by the investigations. Each letter is a voice that defies the silence imposed by the execution. It is a living testimony, a raw record of an internal battle that no one sees, but which leaves profound marks on the penal system and on everyone who follows these cases. The sensation of hearing these final voices is like hearing a whisper coming from the depths of the abyss, a mixture of truth and lies that provokes a disturbing unease. The impact of these letters isn't limited to the pages. It reverberates among those who read them, those who investigate, and even those who watch. Unexpected revelations, buried clues, contradictions that lead to questions that were never asked. The behind-the-scenes details of these accounts show how the final word can be the most powerful, and at the same time the most ambiguous, in the sentencing process. What seemed resolved becomes fertile ground for theories, doubts, and interpretations that challenge official justice. As we open these letters, we also delve into the decisions made amidst the inner chaos of each convict. These final words expose a struggle between accepting the end or trying one last time to change the course of the story that will be told about them. It is the collision between hidden truth and public perception, where the emotional and the rational clash brutally. The viewer, then, is not merely a passive observer, but an unwitting accomplice in this transformation, invited to feel every fragment of this dark and visceral journey. Some of these letters are filled with chills and confessions, others carry accusations that can shake foundations. In all of them, there is an implicit invitation to look beyond the obvious, to question what has been presented as definitive. Because when the cell door closes and silence takes over, the words written in these final moments are perhaps the only true ones left, not because they are absolute, but because they carry the intensity of a human being confronting their own end. And it is at this point that the stories intertwine, revealing unexpected connections, details that hint at something larger, an invisible web of relationships and secrets never fully uncovered. We are not just looking at 6 letters, we are looking at a living, breathing archive, where each sentence is a key that can open a door to a new interpretation of the past. Revelations that are not just stories, but true invitations to question what we know about crime, punishment, and humanity. The next stage of this journey will lead us to unravel each of these letters, not as mere documents, but as final confessions that carry the weight of the world and the soul. It's a dive into the essence of what it means to face death with a final word to say. And when those words surface, prepare to feel the profound impact they can have, not only on the cases themselves but on everything we think about justice, guilt, and redemption. Each sentence that follows is a piece of this transformation, a fragment that will construct a dark, dense, yet essential narrative for understanding the complexities of human beings at their most extreme. What lies hidden in these letters can change your perception, challenge your beliefs, and, above all, invite you to see beyond appearances. The hidden truth is not a distant mystery, it is here, waiting to be discovered, and what you find may be very different from what you imagine. The clock seemed to be working against him, each tick hammering in his already weary mind, a rhythm reminiscent of a heart about to fail. For years, he had maintained a facade of absolute innocence, an insurmountable barrier erected against the accusations that crushed him. He denied it time after time, under the relentless gaze of the courts and the public. His voice echoed in the courtrooms, a denial so solid that few dared doubt his conviction. But then, minutes before what seemed like the end, the transformation began. The letter he wrote is not just a testimony, it is a seismic shift in what was believed to be truth. he admits to the crime but not alone. A belated confession, written with the urgency of someone who knows they won't get another chance. Words that cut through the prison silence like a sharp blade, revealing a second name. Someone who until then existed only in the shadows of reports, a man who was never formally investigated. This revelation is no mere detail, it is a shock that reverberates behind the scenes of the penal system, a failure that exposes the flaws of an investigation that seemed to be racing against the clock, leaving behind unanswered questions. Imagine the mindset of a man who, caught between life and death, finally decides to release the weight he's been carrying. Not a confession seeking forgiveness, but a cry to expose a hidden truth, an attempt to make clear that what has been presented to the world is not the full story. He details precisely what he did but also what he was forced to hide. The letter is not just an account, it is a meticulous reconstruction of events, a puzzle where each piece dismantles the official version and proposes a new interpretation of the facts. This revelation, as shocking as it is disturbing, sheds light on the complexity of decisions made throughout a process that is often rushed and flawed. It's an invitation to look beyond the court records, to explore the intricacies of a system that must face its own limitations. The weight of this confession is not only for the convicted man, but for everyone involved, from the investigators to the judges who decided his fate. Throughout the letter, the tone shifts, moving from despair to a kind of veiled challenge. He seeks neither clemency nor forgiveness. He wants the truth to come to light, even if it's too late to save his own life. This internal transformation, which culminates in the writing of this letter, shows how the human mind reacts to the imminent impact of death, releasing secrets that have been locked away for years. And therein lies the power of this belated confession. In the fact that even at the last minute, human beings seek to leave their mark, their version of the story, no matter the cost. What you see in this letter is not just criminal testimony. It's a behind-the-scenes window into what happens when pressure, fear, and isolation combine in an explosive mix. It's a portrait of a mind struggling to reconcile guilt with the need for justice, challenging the very system that condemned him. And as these words come to life on paper, they provoke a series of questions that extend beyond the specific case. How many other stories have been buried under the weight of silence? How many hidden truths remain trapped in papers never revealed? This confession is not a plea for redemption, but a paradigm shift, a provocation for society to re-evaluate its certainties. It is stark evidence that, even in the face of final condemnation, the human mind can transform, can choose to reveal what was previously hidden, to face the truth, or at least, its own version of it. This letter becomes a living, breathing document that challenges official versions, shakes the rigid structures of the penal system, and forces us to confront the discomfort of doubt. And as this letter is carefully analyzed, reactions spread. Investigators revisit evidence, family members search for answers that never came, the public oscillates between shock and disbelief. The revelations have a profound impact, an invitation to reconsider not only the man's guilt but also the decisions that shaped his sentence. Because this final message, written under the shadow of death, carries an emotional charge that goes beyond the simple account of a crime. It is a call to reflect on what justice truly means, and to what extent it can fail in the face of human complexity. As he delivered this letter, perhaps he hoped it would change his fate, or perhaps he simply wanted to lift the burden of the truth he held. The transformation this final confession represents is a vivid portrayal of how the proximity of death can reconfigure a mindset, leading to decisions that challenge everything that seemed definitive. This letter, with its mix of regret, accusation, and revelation, is a stark testament to the complexity of the criminal mind and the system that tries to imprison it. And it is precisely on this unstable terrain between confession and doubt that the story continues, revealing even deeper and more fragmented layers of secrets, followed by other letters that, each in their own way, challenge the comfort of ready-made answers and shed new light on what it means to face death with a final word to say. The echo of this belated confession still resonates, and it will guide the next steps of this journey through the letters written in the shadows, in the final moments where the weight of the past and the urgency of truth collide in a human drama that goes far beyond the cold walls of the cell. This paper is not just a document, it is the portal to a truth that, until now, has been carefully hidden, ready to emerge from the darkness and challenge everything we know. As these words echo in our minds, bringing to light questions no one dared to raise before, it becomes clear that this journey doesn't end here. Each letter we reveal is a piece that opens doors to more mysteries, to truths still waiting to emerge from the shadows. It's a winding path, filled with secrets that only together can we unravel. If you feel the weight of this story, this restlessness that won't let your mind rest, it's because you're not alone. Here we've built a space where the impossible becomes real, where darkness is illuminated by fragments of revelation. And for this search to continue so that together we can open the next doors of this labyrinth, your presence makes all the difference. Subscribing isn't just pushing a button, it's accepting a silent invitation to be part of something bigger, a community that isn't content with easy truths. It's ensuring that these stories, charged with mystery and impact, reach you in their most intense, truest form. Because here, each new letter, each new secret revealed, depends on this invisible link that connects us. The transformation these words provoke only happens if we move forward together. And what's yet to come will shake your certainties in a way you've rarely seen. So, if this journey has already reached you, if what we've discovered so far has left a lump in your throat, allow yourself to move forward. Come with us. The darkness holds answers you haven't yet imagined, and they need to be uncovered, not in silence but in company. It's not just a request. It's the beginning of a pact. Because the impact of these stories only exists when shared. So, if you feel this urgency in your chest, this curiosity that insists on not letting go, this is your place. We're just getting started. And what comes next will draw you even deeper into this enigma. Stay alert. The silence of the letters still hides much, and this hidden truth is about to come to light. In the heavy silence of the cell, the second letter stands out like an icy shadow stretching beyond the cold prison walls. It's not a plea for forgiveness, much less a sincere repentance. These are cold, calculated words, addressed to the one who survived the tragedy, a victim who, despite everything, still had to carry the weight of doubt, planted there with surgical precision by someone who should accept their own guilt. This letter isn't a gesture of humanity, but a psychological game. One final move on a board where he still controls the pieces, even when the end already seems inevitable. The sentences are constructed with an almost frightening coldness, a manipulation that escapes the superficial eye. He cares nothing for easing his own conscience. His goal is to undermine the emotional security of the one who suffered directly, to cause certainties to fragment, for fear and confusion to grow like an invisible and constant shadow. The mindset behind this letter reveals a being who does not yield, who does not bend, and who finds in controlling the narrative a way to exert power when everything else has been taken from him. It's a final gesture, but one filled with impact, a dark whisper that infiltrates the victim's daily life, sowing doubts about what really happened, about who the real culprit is. The transformation of the mind that had already committed the crime is now reflected in an emotional manipulation that is part of a defense mechanism, a form of psychological survival. It's the last decision he makes, aware of the power he still holds in his written words, even as his execution approaches. This letter takes us behind the scenes of a complex mind, one that uses silence and fear to keep fighting, to maintain control over a story that should have been closed long ago. Revelations like this not only reveal the victim's vulnerability but also expose the flaws of the system, which fails to always protect those who should be safe, nor prevent the psychological impact from lasting far beyond the criminal act. Stay with me until the end, because what follows will show how these letters are more than simple messages. They are weapons, echoes of a past that insists on returning, revelations that challenge everything we thought was over. You will understand how manipulation can be the ultimate face of violence, and how it transforms not only the condemned, but also everyone trapped in this web of pain and secrets. Every word in this letter is an invitation to look beyond the obvious, to question the official versions and get closer to the hidden truth that insists on remaining in the shadows. What seems like a simple text is actually an emotional battlefield, where the killer's mind still has room to control, even when the body is already condemned. The power of this manipulation is as powerful as the crime that originated it, and understanding this is crucial to delving deeper into the psychology behind these latest confessions. The impact this letter has isn't limited to the prison walls. It permeates those walls, reaching those trying to rebuild their lives, seeking justice, seeking answers. The manipulation present there reverberates like a silent warning, a reminder that the power of words, even the final ones, can be devastating. And it's at this point that we begin to understand that execution doesn't erase the consequences. They remain alive, latent, in every sentence written on that paper. This letter is a crucial chapter in understanding the complex interplay between victim and perpetrator, between truth and lies, between the unfathomable past and the never-ending future. It reveals the mindset of those who face death with the coldness of a strategist, transforming the final act into yet another battle to dominate the narrative. It also invites us to question how the system handles this dynamic and to what extent we are prepared to face these layers of pain and manipulation. As the letter continues to unfold, each line reveals more than a crime story. it reveals a psychological transformation that challenges our concepts of regret and guilt. What seemed like a simple text becomes a mirror of the troubled mind of a man who, even in the face of death, strives to remain in control. And within that control lies a disturbing truth: the power of words to shape memories, to influence perceptions, and sometimes to perpetuate pain. From here, the narrative delves into other confessions, other letters, each with its own weight, its own shadow, its own revelation. It's a dive into the final decisions, the secrets that time couldn't erase, the stories that live on behind the scenes of the system. This letter, so charged with manipulation, is just one of the many echoes that still resonate in the silence that follows the execution. And it is in this silence, in this darkness, that we begin to realize that the true struggle doesn't end with the last breath. The transformation of the human mind in these final moments is a complex territory, where hidden truths, secrets, and decisions intersect, creating a web that defies any attempt at simple explanation. Stay with me until the end, because it is in this web that the true mystery lies, and only those who remain until the end will be able to unravel what still lies behind these words, waiting to come to light. Decades passed in a silence that seemed unbreakable. A silence so absolute that many had already buried that story, sealed that chapter with the weight of certainty. He remained silent, a specter trapped in the shadows of the prison, watching time pass outside, while his words were lost in the emptiness of the cold, isolated cells. But, in the shadows of this isolation, an invisible transformation was taking place. His mind, trapped between remorse and calculation, began to open fissures, revealing what had been kept for years hidden in the depths of memory and secrecy. The third letter appears like a snap in this silence, a rupture that shakes everything thought to be definitive. In it, he doesn't speak of the crime for which he was convicted, not directly. Instead, he describes a different crime, a hidden past that has never been associated with his name, a secret buried between the lines of the system and the flaws of the investigations. Distant cities, dates not recorded in official records, names that seemed erased from history. It's as if this letter were a map to a forgotten labyrinth, a clue to unsolved disappearances buried by time. This revelation is not merely an act of courage or desperation, it is a decision laden with impact. Breaking the silence after so long implies a profound mental transformation, a need to confront one's own hidden truth, even knowing it may not change anything externally. It is a gesture that reveals the weight of past decisions, of hidden truths that continue to haunt, even decades later. It is as if, in writing this letter, he sought a form of redemption, not through freedom, but through exposing what should never have been forgotten. Have you ever stopped to think about the power of silence? What it hides, what it fails to reveal. This letter is an invitation to understand that silence can be a prison even harsher than walls and bars. It's a vault where secrets are kept with an almost palpable intensity, where the hidden truth becomes a shadow that grows over time. The decision to break this silence, then, carries a transformative power, capable of bringing to light revelations that change not only the past but also the present. In the lines of that letter, the convicted man's mind strips away its masks, exposing connections no one has ever attempted to connect. It's as if he's pulling a thread that unravels a web of intertwined stories, connecting his own past to other cases that have been shelved as unsolved mysteries. This connection creates an impact that transcends the crime itself, shedding light on the inner workings of a system that often ignores what doesn't fit into the official narrative. The effect of this letter is twofold. For some, it's a shock, the feeling that a credible story can be undermined by a hidden detail. For others, it's a faint hope that these words might open doors to justice, to answers that have been elusive for so long. But above all, this letter is a reflection of the complexity of the human mind faced with the weight of the past. A vivid portrait of the decisions that shape a life, of how regret, fear, and hidden truth intertwine in a psychological game that defies any attempt at simple understanding. The transformation this breaking of silence brings about doesn't just affect the convicted man. It reverberates throughout all who seek to understand the mysteries he now exposes. It's a call to revisit what has been discarded, to dig into the archives, to question accepted versions, and to make room for revelations that could change the course of long-stalled investigations. The words in this letter act like a beacon, illuminating dark corners that many would prefer to keep hidden. As you follow this narrative, you'll feel as if you're standing before a crucial piece of a puzzle that seemed incomplete. Every detail, every name and date mentioned are not mere coincidences, but indicative of a web of connections that defies the linearity of official investigations. The courage to break this silence demonstrates the complexity of a mind that, even confined, still seeks to control its own story, leaving clues so that the hidden truth can finally be recognized. This letter is an invitation to go beyond the superficial, to delve into the depths of a mind that carries the weight of decisions that may have changed destinies. Revelations like these show us that, even when all seems lost, there are still fragments of transformation that can emerge from the depths of the abyss. And it is in this depth that the true challenge lies, understanding the web of emotions, manipulations, and secrets that make up the mosaic of this dark story. With each written word, the convict's mind paints a more complex portrait than the system and society are prepared to accept. And it is at this point that the narrative becomes even more complex, inviting the viewer to reflect on the true layers surrounding crime, punishment, and the search for truth. The impact of these revelations lies not only in what is said, but in what they provoke in those who read, in those who investigate, in those who experience the weight of the decisions that define human destiny. It is in this setting, charged with mystery and emotion, that the story unfolds, leading us to other equally disturbing accounts, where the hidden truth continues to emerge, fragmented and intertwined, challenging our understanding and keeping us trapped in this web of secrets. And it is in this way that we move forward, without losing the thread that connects each fragment of this plot, ready to unravel the next step in this journey through the minds and final confessions of those who face the final frontier between life and death. The fourth letter arrived as a cold whisper, a farewell written with the ink of imminent death, but it quickly transformed into something far more disturbing, a portent charged with an almost prophetic urgency. The first lines seemed like those of a man accepting the inevitable, a final goodbye marked by resignation. But gradually the words changed tone, taking on a darker, more menacing tone. There are others, and they are still out there. That phrase, simple and direct, became a disturbing echo that has spanned time. At the time, authorities viewed the text as the final ravings of a condemned man, someone whose judgment was eroded by the proximity of death and extreme isolation. The warning was dismissed, ignored with the indifference of someone who sees no point in listening to a man about to disappear forever. But history, cruel in its irony, had other plans. 2 years later, an identical crime emerged, bearing the same marks, the same pattern, the same fear. As if that letter were not a farewell, but a warning that echoed beyond the body about to be erased. This revelation leads us to reflect on the impact of decisions made in the shadows of the penal system, where the most important voices are often silenced, discredited, or simply ignored. That man's warning wasn't just a word thrown into the wind, it was a fragment of a hidden truth, a window into a reality no one was willing to face. And it is at this point that the mindset behind the letter reveals itself in all its complexity, the transformation of a convict who, even on the brink of death, carries a weight that goes beyond his own story. Rereading this letter, we begin to understand that a man's last words can carry unexpected power. It's an invitation not to close our eyes to what bothers us, not to dismiss what seems unlikely simply because it comes from a discredited source. The hidden truth behind this warning is a shadow that hangs over unsolved cases, a behind-the-scenes play that challenges official versions and forces us to look more closely at what lies beyond the visible. This gesture, though ignored, brings to light an essential debate about how we deal with the impact of judicial and police decisions. How often are a confession, a warning, or a clue overlooked because we consider the convicted person's mind compromised? And how many of those times are we actually missing vital fragments of a truth that could save lives or prevent further crimes? This letter, then, becomes a symbol of the importance of listening beyond the obvious, of searching between the lines of final words for a deeper understanding of human complexity. From this point on, the narrative invites us to explore the behind the scenes of an investigation that, perhaps out of fear, negligence, or simply incompetence, failed to heed a warning that could have changed the course of events. The transformation of a man who, facing his own death, decides to leave a message that goes beyond himself, a message that defies silence, oblivion, and indifference. It's an invitation to look not only at what's said, but also at what's left between the lines, at the decisions that shape the fate of cases that remain open and at the truths that insist on remaining hidden, waiting for someone brave enough to hear them. The impact of this letter goes beyond its textual content. It lies in the weight of the emotions and the complexity of the revelations it carries. As this story unfolds, it becomes clear that the ignored warning is not a simple isolated episode, but part of a larger web of secrets and decisions spanning time. The condemned man's final message becomes a warning signal that resonates with disturbing intensity, raising questions about our own ability to recognize and act on what can save or condemn lives. And so, the narrative expands, inviting us to delve even deeper into the labyrinths of these letters and the stories they carry. Each written word is a step in this transformation, a decision that reverberates far beyond the cell where it was made, an invitation to discover the hidden truths that remain in the shadows, waiting to be revealed. It is on this unstable terrain between warning and reality that we continue to walk, with attentive eyes and an open mind for the next fragments of this dark and fascinating plot. As this letter echoes in your mind, carrying the weight of a warning that was ignored, you may feel a knot forming in your chest, that mixture of anger, sadness, and helplessness that arises when the truth seems to slip through your fingers. If these words touched something within you, if this shadow that haunts the victims, the forgotten, and the silenced awakened a sense of unease, leave a word in the comments that sums up what this story stirred within you. It could be injustice, silence, or even truth. This simple gesture is more than a reaction. It's a way of venting, a way of saying that you're not alone in this restlessness, in this search for answers that never quite arrive. It's a silent way of creating a space where shared pain finds an echo and where this community that grows around these stories finds its place. Your comment matters because here, each voice is a thread that keeps this network of curiosity, indignation, and transformation alive. This is how we move forward, with the strength of those who refuse to accept silence as an answer, with the desire to understand what lies behind the letters, the unspoken words, and the decisions that shape destinies. Your words are a reminder that these stories live on, and it is this connection, this invisible exchange, that sustains everything that is to come. Leave your mark. Give voice to what you feel. Because in the end, this journey is as much yours as it is mine, and it's in this collective outpouring that we find the energy to go further, to delve even deeper into this darkness that insists on revealing secrets. The fifth letter arrives shrouded in mystery, a piece that defies simple and straightforward comprehension. Half poetry, half veiled threat, its lines intertwine as if designed to confuse, to provoke rather than clarify. The writing is almost artistic, a dance of biblical metaphors and symbols that defy common logic, evoking images that seem to have emerged from a distorted dream or a nightmare. The message becomes an enigma in itself, a labyrinth of words that opens doors to multiple and contradictory interpretations. Investigators and experts in human behavior have spent years trying to decipher what was really there. Was it a veiled confession, an acknowledgement of the atrocities committed? Or was it merely a final act of provocation, a form of manipulation, a macabre dance to maintain control even when all seemed lost? This duality fuels fascination and horror, revealing how the human mind can transform the end into a spectacle where the truth is simultaneously hidden and revealed in disconnected fragments. The transformation of this letter into an object of study reflects the complexity of the mindset that wrote it. It is not a simple communication but a challenge to those who try to understand, a test of patience and the ability to perceive what lies between the lines. Each symbol, each biblical metaphor carries a weight that transcends the crime itself, pointing to deeper questions about guilt, redemption, and the line between sanity and madness. Have you ever felt like something is being said but the words aren't enough? That the true meaning is hidden, waiting to be unveiled? This letter is exactly that, an invitation to look beyond the obvious, to delve into the mind of a condemned man who, until his last moments, sought to transform his story into something bigger, darker, more disturbing. In the impact of this letter, we see how the truth can be distorted, manipulated, and used as a last resort. It challenges not only the investigators but also those who follow this story, challenging everything we believe we know about repentance and punishment. The line between confession and provocation is tenuous, and it is precisely this ambiguity that keeps the tension alive, fuels curiosity, and forces us to question what is really being said. Stay with me until the end. Because what this letter hides goes beyond the written words. It lies in the shadows of what was unsaid, in the gaps between metaphors, and in the silences laden with meaning. The value of following through to the end lies precisely in not missing any of these fragments that, together, reveal a hidden truth, an essential piece of this complex plot. The reciprocity here is clear. The more attentive you are, the more these stories will open up to you, revealing layers that go unnoticed by many. This isn't a simple reading but an immersive experience that rewards those who decide not just to listen, but to feel, reflect, and connect with what lies behind the words. As this letter continues its course, the shadows deepen, and the transformation of the condemned man's mind unfolds in a macabre dance between light and darkness, truth and lies, redemption and condemnation. It is in this unstable balance that we lose ourselves, and it is also there that we find the path to unravel the next secrets, the next whispers that still echo in this dark corridor of history. The sixth letter carries a different weight, a burden that goes beyond the convict himself and reaches someone who never responded, his son. The words written there are not just a confession, nor an outburst. They are pieces of an entire life condensed into lines intertwined with painful childhood memories, fragments of a past where innocence was eroded by the decisions that shaped a dark destiny. The blend of the account of the crime and the desperate attempt to convey something beyond guilt reveals a profound transformation, a mindset seeking redemption through the impact of its own choices. This letter isn't about material possessions, money, or possessions. The legacy the convict leaves behind is invisible, made of emotional scars and memories that don't fade with time. Each word, filled with regret, hope, and fear, conveys the complexity of the bond between father and son, a relationship marked by absence, silence, and a past that cannot be deconstructed, but which still pulses between the lines of the emotions left behind. It's a letter that reveals how guilt can be transmitted as an invisible burden, a shadow that accompanies those born under the weight of past decisions. In writing to a son who never responded, the condemned man seeks something beyond physical contact. He projects a transformation, a hope that the one who carries his blood can somehow right the wrongs he himself could not avoid. It is a bet on human resilience, an attempt to break the cycle that imprisoned him, to find redemption through a generation that can choose a different path. This attempt, however fragile, reveals the power of human decisions and the impact they have, not only in the present but in the lives that come after. As these words are read, one feels like diving into the mind of the convicted man, an invitation to understand the fragility and complexity of the human being behind the crime. The letter exposes a side that is rarely seen, the side that lives with the weight of guilt, the pain of loss, and the search for meaning even when everything seems destroyed. It is a reminder that the hidden truth often lies in the small cracks of the heart, in the unspoken emotions we carry silently. Have you ever felt the pressure of carrying guilt that isn't entirely yours? Of wondering if other people's decisions can define your destiny? This letter touches precisely on this point, this emotional connection that transcends crime and speaks directly to our own insecurities, doubts, and fears. It's a call to reflect on how family histories, traumas, and past choices shape our mindset and influence the transformations we seek. As we delve deeper into this narrative, we realize that the impact of this letter goes beyond the father-son relationship. It raises questions about the burden each generation carries, about the decisions we make, and how they reverberate far beyond what we imagine. It's a reflection on responsibility, on the truth hidden between the lines of human relationships, and on the power we have to transform this burden, even if it's slowly, silently. And it is on this threshold, between the weight of guilt and the hope of transformation, that we continue exploring the fragments of these letters, pieces of intertwined lives that defy time, certainties, and official versions, leaving behind a trail of emotions, doubts, and revelations that still echo in the silence. What connects these letters goes far beyond the words that compose them. As we delve deeper into the lines, we notice that dates overlap, and repeated phrases emerge almost like a distant echo, whispering a connection that defies chance. Mysterious symbols, sometimes almost imperceptible, reappear in the letters of convicts who have never had direct contact, souls isolated in separate cells, but who, somehow, seem to follow a silent code, shared in the underground of the prison system. This discovery casts a shadow over what we know about prisons, revealing an underworld where encrypted messages travel between thick walls and attentive guards, a mental and symbolic game where every detail carries a hidden meaning. The behind-the-scenes nature of these communications speaks of a transformation in the way these men connect with the outside world, an invisible network that defies official rules, traversing isolation and loneliness to leave traces of their truths, fears, and provocations. It's as if these letters were fragments of a greater truth, a complex puzzle where each repeated symbol becomes a crucial piece, capable of unlocking stories that authorities would prefer to keep buried. The mentality behind these codes seems to nurture the hope that, even in the face of irrevocable condemnation, something can be conveyed, a message that goes beyond the immediate, that defies time and oblivion. By recognizing this connection, we are invited to question the decisions that shape the prison system, the hidden truths that never reach public hearings, and the real impact of these connections on investigations and the lives involved. Could these letters be signs of veiled communication between convicts, a silent pact to expose a truth that remains hidden? Or simply coincidences amplified by the human search for meaning? As we attempt to decipher these symbols and patterns, we open a door to the backstage of prison life, to the complexity of human relationships even in environments that attempt to eliminate any possibility of contact or influence. It's an invitation to reflect on the internal transformations these men experience, on the mindset they develop to survive, resist, and, in some way, leave indelible marks of their existence. This interplay of codes and symbols shows that the letters are not mere final accounts, but rather pieces of a fragmented narrative that demands attention and sensitivity to be understood. It is an invitation to explore the truth hidden in the shadows of justice, where the impact of decisions made reverberates far beyond the cells, reaching the deepest recesses of the human mind and the story that remains untold. These silent connections between letters that should never cross paths lead us to reflect on the power of the written word, how it escapes, even when imprisoned, and finds hidden paths to spread. If you feel this restlessness, this thirst to understand what lies behind the shadows, this is where our journey is strengthened. Signing up is more than a gesture. It's a commitment to the truth that's yet to come, to the mysteries that insist on remaining hidden. It's our way of ensuring that these voices won't be erased, that revelations will continue to emerge from the silence. It's not just about numbers or statistics. It's about creating a community that knows that every fragment of these stories makes a difference, that curiosity can be the key to opening doors that many prefer to keep locked. If you want to follow these dark corridors, where every word reveals a secret and every letter brings a new enigma, stay here with me. The journey is long, the steps are heavy, but the reward is understanding what no one dares tell. Don't abandon this quest. Your presence, your attention, and your interest are what keep this light burning in the darkness. This journey will bring surprises that will shake up everything you think about justice, guilt, and redemption. Subscribe, because what follows is just the beginning, and you won't want to miss a single line of this story. These letters, so often forgotten in dusty archives or stored in private collections, hidden from public view, carry a weight that not even death itself can erase. They are the last stand, the final breath of those who knew that silence would never be enough to erase the truth. Each one carries an urgent need to say the last word, a confession, a warning, a provocation, or simply a cry for redemption that echoes across time and distance. Behind each line lies a hidden world of decisions that shape destinies, of mindsets transformed by the weight of guilt and fear, and of truths that insist on remaining buried, waiting to emerge from the shadows of oblivion. The impact of these letters goes beyond the yellowed paper or the smudged ink. It lies in the emotions they provoke, the questions they leave hanging, the revelations still waiting to be uncovered. Do you feel the weight of this? How much can a simple letter change everything we believed about justice and truth? Each fragment of these stories is a piece of a larger puzzle, an invitation to look deeper, to question what is real and what has been manipulated. These are narratives that defy time and that, even after the final sentence, still have much to say. Which of these letters do you think hides the greatest secret? Which one carries that hidden truth that could transform everything we know? Write your guess, your suspicion, your impression in the comments. Because this exchange is not only important for you, but for everyone seeking to unravel these mysteries. It's a way to keep this network of curiosity, impact, and revelations alive. The next letter may already be written, silently awaiting the right moment to be discovered, to shake the foundations of a story that refuses to end. And here, between these winding, emotionally charged lines, we continue walking, uncovering what time has tried to hide, but which insists on surfacing. If you've made it this far, it's because you know this story isn't just about letters. It's about justice that often seems distant, about secrets that insist on hiding in the shadows of official truth. Leave a phrase in the comments that you feel speaks directly to you. It could be, "I'm with you until the end," or, "This message was for me." I want to know who's here on the same quest, sharing this restlessness that won't go away. What we experience together here isn't just another video. It's a connection, a part of this invisible network that keeps alive the flame of curiosity and revolt against the silence that tries to swallow everything. If this content touched you, a like is a simple gesture, but it strengthens this chain, helps keep the light burning so more of these stories can come to light. And there's more. There's a video right there that speaks directly to what we've just uncovered. It delves even deeper into the hidden layers of these letters and the minds behind them. If you want to continue this journey, the next stop is essential to understanding what's behind the curtain, what many try to hide. Follow me on this path, because the search for truth is collective, and it is with you that it gains the strength to continue.